We have we've been through a lot this last 4 years. Is that right, Mary?
I was going to say, tell me about it.
You kept coming back though.
Yeah. Mary.
I'm a masochist, Joe.
So there's a kind of a process in the Course in Miracles, and it's very important that you know this process. And a part of the process is we have the book, okay? And we start reading the book. And we study the book. And we learn the book, okay? So what we're doing is we're taking what's in the book and we're planting it in here, okay? And I think we've all done that at this stage, especially in this group, yeah? So, we need to now get it from here to here. Because this is still the ego. The thinker is still the ego. The intellect is still the ego's intellect. Okay, so you'll always be in a state of conflict with this part of yourself if you don't get it to here. So how do we get it from here to here? Don't be shy.
Forgiveness.
Practice.
Practice. That's the same as forgiveness. Once we start application, it gets you from here to here. You're never going to have the experience here. Never. Okay? Because the ego, being the other thought system, is totally exclusive from the thought system of heaven or from the Holy Spirit. Okay? So the ego will always try to understand what, Spirit is, but it can never understand that. Jesus says that in the Course. The ego will ask many questions, but have very little understanding. So you're never going to have the experience here, you get the experience here. Okay? And the only way you're going to get the experience here is through the application of the tools that's in the Course. Isn't that true? So where do we place the application? Where does the application take place? There's a hint.
On the blackboard.
Okay, it's in our relationships. Okay, because remember what Jesus says in the Course? Our relationships is the home of the Holy Spirit. It is only the home of the Holy Spirit once we start using the tools. Forgiveness. Isn't this true? Okay, so you can stay reading the book for this lifetime and many, many other lifetimes. But it ain't going to change much. You might get all your questions answered, but you're still never going to have that experience. So what I want to do today, I want to, what we were doing with Joe and a few at the weekly group here in the Lewis Fitzgerald, we were talking about, this has to be practical from now on. How can I use what I have learned? Okay? So, what is our special relationships? Where are our special relationships? Give me one or two or three or four.
Family, food,
Well,
children,
we have family,
Friends.
friends, and others.
colleagues, work
Work,
colleagues.
yeah.
Yeah, work.
Wife.
What else?
Enemies, people we don't like. Oh, well, yeah.
Your community.
Huh?
Community.
With ego itself.
Attachments.
With yourself.
With our intimate relationships.
Lovers.
Yeah, our lovers. Okay, anything else?
Our possessions.
Yeah. But it's all of the stuff. All of these are centered around stuff. I'll do one more. Illness.
With the
Okay.
body.
Yeah. One last one.
Our image.
We'll leave that to the last. Okay, because we do have a special relationship with the Course, don't we?
We
Okay.
have a relationship as well, just Unless we have a relationship with life, with bureaucracy, with.
Yeah, but this should be enough to cover.
That's where the problems are.
Okay, this should
It's
be
not
enough
like
to
a car or whatever, you know, if you had a car and it was stolen, there you go. Yeah, is that?
Well, they're attachments, you could say, right? So we'll go 7. I always like the word 7, or the letter 7, or number 7. Okay, so those are our special relationships. So what I want to do today, I want to go through each of these in practical ways, because is there anybody that doesn't have a special relationship with any of those? Anybody? Does everybody here say, right, I have a special relationship with each and every one of those? Yeah?
Yeah.
So this kind of covers the majority of our relationships. Yeah? So let me show you something else here now too. You know the way that we've been working on the 3 levels for the last number of years? 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 tools in operation here at each of these levels. Okay? At this level, there's ATF. What's at this level? Okay? What's at the top level? Huh? Another one. What is the tool for dealing with the special relationships?
No, what's the tool?
For dealing with the special relationships.
Self-empowerment.
So,
You're in the other's paper.
Kevin, I thought you would have been in there.
But the other things, I never know what you expect.
So you're kind of
But I do
afraid.
find that self-empowerment brilliant.
Okay, so what happens here is, right, at this bottom level, we have here the ego right mind and the ego wrong mind. At this level, okay, we have the true right mind. And then we have the ego right. And at this level, we have the one mind. Okay, so just to explain this. At this level, okay, we're in the world. So what is in the world with us? What is the world? It's a projection. And what are everybody around us? What are they?
projection.
Are projections. Okay, so this is why ATF is very powerful at this level, because ATF is simply bringing back our projections. Isn't that right? So at this level, ATF is very important. And I know a number of people have been using ATF and were very reluctant to give it up. Isn't that right, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you did find it very, very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
When you do it right.
Now, this is you in the body, and you're in the world. And that's what the world and the body is projections. Okay? But when we move to level 2, where do we go?
Rationalizations and stuff.
No, where do we go? Remember, this is the body and the world. We go back into the mind. Isn't this true? See? True right mind. We're going back into the mind here. So you could say this level is the body and the world. Yeah? So, what's at this level?
Spirit.
Oneness.
Yeah? Right, are we following each other so far? Right. So, What I want to do now, I want to show you this same diagram, but in a different way. Okay, and we did this, I did this in Ibiza, and I did this here with the group on Wednesday night. So here, you have the I am. Yeah? Which leads to thoughts. Which leads to
Story.
story. Okay? So, everybody here has stories. Everybody that's in the world has a story. Okay? So, the I am, maybe the thought might be a victim. Because everybody can relate to that. So the I am goes into the thought, and both the I am and the thought go into the story. Yeah? Every story that you have about your past, you're in it. And there's a thought in it along with you. Okay? So to give you an example, say someone has did something wrong with you.
Sorry?
Say someone has hurt you in some way, or that you have hurt someone in some way. That is the basis of a story. So the I am, the thought, all right, victimizer or victim, because that's what the two represent, isn't it? Okay, come into the story. So what is the tool that we use in the stories? ATM. Okay? With our thoughts. Remember, thoughts create emotions. So at this level now, with our thoughts, what's the tool we use?
Complete forgiveness.
Complete forgiveness. Okay? And at this level, what is the thought that we use? Or sorry, the tool that we use? Self-empowerment. Yeah? So, here you can see now, what I'm going to show you is a slow way of doing this or a fast way of doing this. Okay? So, you and your thought are in stories. And as long as you stay in the story, the thought will be in the story along with you. Yeah? And as long as you and the thought are in the stories, you're going to have projections. Yeah? And that means you're going to be using ATF. So, this is the slow way of doing it. Which means that you, as long as you keep the story, you're going to have to keep forgiving in the story. Every story that you have. Is this true? Okay? So, the way to do this, the fast way, is for you to come out of the story and look at the thought. Okay? And then come out of the thought and question the I am. Do you see how now they all tie into each other? Alright? So as long as you keep the story and you're doing the course, you will be using ATF or a form of ATF. Okay?
Thoughts are doing automatically
Yeah, go ahead.
stories.
Thoughts are automatically in the stories? Yeah. But they're not automatic because you have to choose the thought.
Yeah.
Okay? We choose our thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can choose the thought of the victim and play the victim role. So, I choose the thought of victim, and now I create a story where I am the victim in it. Or, I choose the thought of the victimizer. And now I play the role of the victimizer in the story. Isn't this true? Yeah? God, you're very somber today. Do you know, I know Ireland got beaten, but...
Can I just ask you, Michael, where does emotion fit in there? Is that the emotion, that
Thoughts
thought,
produce
that-
emotions.
Yeah, so you find the underlying thought there, and that's what,
Yeah,
through the emotion that
that's right.
is
That's right. Because you see, thoughts and emotions are linked. And both the thought, the emotion, and you then go into the story. And this is why all our stories are emotional. Yeah? So he's with me so far?
Yeah.
All right. So the quickest way to do this is for you to look at the story, okay, and make a choice. Do you want to keep the story or get out of the story? When you're in the story, right, the emotions are very powerful. You're not going to want to come out of it, and you're not going to want to basically let it go. Because this is the actor that's in the dream. There's two roles that you're playing. You're either playing the actor in the dream, or you're playing the observer. Okay? But when you're in the story, you're the actor in the story. And the actor is all made up. It's the false self, it's the separated self, it's the ego self, whatever symbol you want to use for it. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Yeah? So, don't worry about the stories. We're going to get to the stories in a minute, because that's what the first page was about, all our special relationships. That's all our stories. We have a story about work, we have a story with our family, we have a story with our friends, we have a story with our lovers, we have stories with the body and its illnesses, we have stories with our attachments, and we have a story with the Course in Miracles. Okay, so there are the stories. We're going to get to these now in a minute, but I just want to give you the overview of how this all works. Yeah? So, when we come out of the story, all right, and let the story go, the whole point is to stay at this level 3. So how do we stay at level 3? Or better still, again, let's say we use the tools, we come out of here, what takes us back into the story?
Our thoughts.
Special relations.
You see, this world, remember this world is built on duality.
On what?
Duality.
Oh, yeah.
There's right and there's wrong. There's the innocent and there's the guilty. There's good and there's bad. There's nothing that's going to drag you into a story than you picking a side.
So judgments.
No,
Picking
you
sides.
pick the side first and judgment follows.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you could be up here, this is the false I am, and the other I am is right beside this, the true I am, the observer I am. Okay, so you could say this is the I am that I am. Okay? Sitting alongside here is the I am not that I am. Isn't that cool?
Could you give us an example of that? Like, is that again, I am tired, I am sick,
guilty,
all
I
this
am
stuff
fearful,
we say,
I am a victim, I am a victimizer, I am anxious, I am depressed.
identifying with this
Yes,
false
we
and stuff.
identify with the thought. Remember, we do two things with thought. Well, with all our thoughts, we're inquiring and we're attaching. There are no neutral thoughts. Okay, but when we're in the ego thought system, we're surrounded by the ego's thoughts. So this is basically all we have ever known is the ego thoughts. And we're always questioning these thoughts, and then we're attaching ourselves to these thoughts. And the way that we attach ourselves to a thought is we basically pick a story in the world, we attach ourselves to it, and it could be good or bad, right or wrong. So for example, you could be looking at the news, and you could see maybe a little seals getting clubbed over the head, and you would say, what? That's very cruel. Okay, so you attach yourselves to the victims, which is the little baby seals, all right? So you can't attach yourself to the victim of the baby seal without attacking
The other.
who's the victimizers. Remember, all defenses are attacks. When you defend a side that's in the story, you're really attacking the other side in the stories. That's what all defenses, as Jesus says in the Course, all ego defenses are really attacks. So once you pick a side to what you see in the world, remember the world is a projection, okay? And it could be looking at Syria. You know, all those little, remember the little picture of the little child that was washed up, drowned on the beach? What were your thoughts around that? Anybody? What did you really think?
You're attacking ISIS and the Syrian government and
And even the people who's not helping.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the American government or the Russian government or some government. Isn't that true? See, the moment that you see cruelty and you attach yourself to it, you're going to look straight away for the victimizer. And everybody aligns themselves with the victim. Why?
Because we see ourselves the same.
Exactly. Exactly. It's kind of being attached to like-minded. And we all believe ourselves to be victims.
And someone else is guilty.
Exactly. So we believe we're a victim of somebody or something. Okay? We don't really know what it is. All right? So we see a story, and the story could be in our family, could be at work, could be in a relationship, it could be in the news. So we see a story of someone being a victim. Now we know who the victimizer is, and we go for blood. But it's all covered up with this illusion that we're siding with this poor little victim. Do you see the way the whole thing's set up? So anybody, just remember this is, I'm going to take this slow today because this is more practical. I want you to kind of think, when's the last time that you fell for this trick? When's the last time you seen something horrible? Just that you don't even have to say it, but if you want to share it, fine. But just think in your mind, when were you reading the newspaper and you seen something? When did you watch the TV and the last thing that you seen? What did you do? This is a part of our conditioning. You know, it's natural for us to do this. Because this is what we have always done. This is what everybody around us does. And you see it in Facebook, you know. Prayers for these victims, prayers for this disaster, this. And we're being tempted in all the time to pick a side in this story. So when's the last time you picked a side in the story, and what was the effects of that? Did you feel the next day depressed, angry, irritated, annoyed? Now you know why. Once you pick a side in the story, you lose your peace automatically. Very, very quickly. Depending on how powerful the story is and how much that you want to attack the victimizer. Is this making sense? Have we done this? Are we doing this? Are we going to do this tomorrow? Okay?
Oh, you did it with the budget.
Well, you spoke about the rugby match, and I know that, you know, we'll be talking about the fact that we lost our key players and it wasn't fair and what have you. It's a small example of it.
Exactly. Exactly. And maybe that guy should have got red carded.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, for leading with his head. So that's just one typical example of a football match. And that's what everybody does at football matches. This is why sports is so widely followed. You know, you have two sets of supporters, you have the referee in the middle, and you have the two teams. And both are attacking the other side. Every decision the referee makes is going to be making a decision against one side or the other. So all them energies, all that energy that's in the stadium is being lumped into the middle of the ground on top of the referee. Or on top of another player. Someone who the crowd hates, someone who the crowd irritates or annoys or whatever. You see this going on everywhere. That's the point that I'm making here. You know, this is happening everywhere, every day in all your lives. In your own family house, in your neighborhoods, in your communities, in your country. What did you think of the budget? Look at all the stories. Did you look at Budget Day? You see that? Look at all the politicians standing up and them all siding with the victims or the victimizers. Who were the victimizers that day? The government. Because they didn't give money to the homeless. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. Okay, who were the victims? That was the homeless. Maybe the health board. You know, there's not enough money for the health board or whatever. Okay, you can see it every time you turn on a TV. You'll see it. Here's the question. Are you buying into this? Because the effects of that is now you're in the story. You take the place, you take on the energy of the victim in the story. Now you're caught up in the drama in the story. And now you're fighting the battle in the story. And you lose your peace. And then you say, oh God, look, I projected this. Oh, I projected my guilt onto this person. I projected my guilt onto that person. Oh, I have to do ATF. Yeah? So just imagine that you are doing ATF. And you're still buying into the stories every day. What does that mean?
You're doing ATF forever. Yeah. It is true, yeah.
Okay. So, just ask yourself this question just for a moment. Is there any stories in your life that you want to keep? Because the cost that you're paying for them is mighty high. It's keeping you separate. It's keeping you fearful. It's keeping you guilty. It's keeping you depressed. It's keeping you irritated. It's keeping you annoyed. All those emotions are all in the stories. And then some stories, what we do to make the story even more powerful, what do?
Get a witness.
We get witnesses. And the more witnesses we have, the more that we're right. The problem with that is the more witnesses you have, you're making the story more powerful. And when you make the story more powerful, what else do you make more powerful?
Fear and everything
The
else.
emotions in the story. So you can see how subtle this all is. And it's only coming from one cause. Here. We all have an attachment to this. We all want to be right. We all want drama. We all love our stories. You know, when you meet someone, just listen to yourself, especially when you meet someone new for the first time or you're introduced, just listen to the stories that you tell them. Or even sit back and listen to other conversations with people. This is the greatest way you can practice this, you know. But the secret when you're listening to other people's stories is you don't judge them. So you don't see their stories as right or wrong. Because this is the trap. You're out of the story now and you're looking at someone else's stories, and what's the ego's first response? This person's wrong. Or this person's right. Now, you're in their story. And we all do this, don't we? Especially since we started doing A Course in Miracles. Yeah? We become a witness to other people's stories. We pick a side, whether they're right or wrong. Maybe they're insane, maybe they're this, maybe they're that. Now we join that person in their story. It doesn't matter whether they're right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. When's the last time that you did that? You know, and you'll do this every time in our special relationships. Here, in our family, okay? Who's the victim and who's the victimizer in the family? Who's right and who's wrong in the family? Who's good and who's bad in your family. And your friends. You know, your good friends is probably still with you. Your ex-friends are the bad friends. Isn't this true? At work. Who's right or wrong at work? Who's good or bad at work? Who's the victim at work? Who's the victimizer at work? What role are you playing at work? What role do you play in the family? What role do you play with your friends? In your relationship, who's right and wrong? Who's good and bad? And sickness, the sickness that's in the body, is it good or bad? What do we do with sickness? We label it straight away. We don't label it as good, do we? We label it as bad. So the sickness is a story that's in the body. Yeah? And our automatic response is to see this sickness as bad. So when something is bad, what do we do with it?
Try to get rid of it.
We try to get rid of it. Isn't this natural? Everybody would have this thought. You know, how do I get rid of this? So how do we get rid of it? We reject it. We try to destroy it. Isn't that true? But what does Jesus say in the Course? You know, remember what I said to you is about people trying to undo the ego. Jesus says in the Course, to the ego, to undo it means to destroy it. And he says you cannot destroy the ego because it's a thought that belongs to you. So what does he say we have to do with this?
Change it.
Overlook it.
We have to reinterpret it. Okay? So when he's speaking about the ego, what is the ego? It's a thought of fear. Isn't it? And there's only two emotions, love and fear. So everybody, when you think of the ego, they're automatically going to have the thought of fear. Okay? And they're trying to destroy this fear. It has to be reinterpreted. And it's the same with all other thoughts that we have. The thought of sickness. We have to reinterpret it. We can't destroy it. Okay? We have A Course in Miracles, and we have attachments. We have to reinterpret everything. Okay? So, what we're going to do here, which would you like to do? Would you like to keep the story? You would?
No.
No. Would you like to keep the thoughts? Would you like to keep the I am?
The real I am, yes.
But what's in the way of the real I am?
The way, what's in the way, the false I am.
Yeah, exactly.
And its attachments.
So how do we get rid of the false I am?
Take back our projections.
You're back in the story.
Sorry?
Yeah, you're here now again. You were here, Mary, and you just went the elevator all the way to the bottom.
Self-empowerment.
Yes. We question the I am. What did you do during the week like you were saying on Wednesday night?
I was,
Once you, no, I don't.
Oh, sorry, okay.
But once you just,
Yeah.
you said,
I questioned the ego.
you questioned the I am. But you told me, you know, who you were feeling fearful was, man?
I was feeling fearful.
And then you
And
just
then
said,
I just said, who's feeling fearful?
you questioned that. And what happened to fear?
Well, straight away I felt empowered.
Yes.
But talking to you, you were saying I need to do the rest of the self-empowerment.
Yes. Yes.
Which I did.
Yes.
later
You
on.
see, once we go to this point here, right, this is how I woke up. All right? That night, the one thing that brought me peace almost immediately, the same as what I did with Colette, was that night was the first time I questioned who I was. Who was the I? Who was, when I had the out-of-body experiences, who was the I, who was the body, and who was the I who was having the experience outside the body? I didn't know what the answer was. But the whole thing fell apart. Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now, the same thing. Byron Katie, the same thing. And I was listening to a video of Jim Carrey, and the same thing. He says he just went into this vortex. And he says he felt connected to everyone and everything. He said, I was everybody and everything. And that's exactly what I had written in my book, and that's exactly what Eckhart Tolle says. And Byron Katie says. Why? For the simple thought of questioning the I.
Just as a follow-on from that, as soon as I questioned who's afraid, you know, the answers to what I needed to step into, I could get, it just came.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. You
Yes.
know, I knew exactly what I needed to do.
And any emotion that you have, the moment you question, because here's the emotion, all right? Here's the story. But when you question the I here, something amazing happens, all right? All of a sudden, you sever from the emotion, because the thought is in the story along with the emotions, and you're out of the story also. It is very, very powerful. It's the quickest way if you want to wake up. This is it. If you're in a very emotional person, or you're in any relationships with anybody, and those relationships are emotional. They're all emotional. When you question who is having this emotion, who is this story about? Because the story is all made up. The thoughts are all made up. And the I am, who's having them all, is all made up. You can't have a story in your past without you. Isn't that true? You are in every story. You're either a witness to the stories or you're in the stories. Same thing. And if you're a witness to the story that you're in, basically you pick a side to that story, so the witness that you're basically siding with is really you. Isn't that true? Are you following me with this? So it doesn't matter whether you're in the story, but because you're holding on to the story, you have somebody as a witness in the story, and you have sided with that person, so that person is literally you in the story. It could be you feel sorry for somebody. You have pity for somebody. Yeah? With me so far? So, here is the 3 tools of A Course in Miracles. Here is the 3 levels of A Course in Miracles. You have the story, which is in the world and in the body, and in many other bodies. You have the thoughts that are in the mind. Okay? And then you have the I am, who's all made up, that everything flows from. Okay?
Sorry, can you say that again?
You have
No,
here,
no, okay, last one.
you have the I am, which everything flows from. The thoughts and the stories. Okay? So, the way that you do this is for you to look very carefully at all your relationships and choose now, do you want to keep the stories that these relationships represent, or do you want to let them go?
Sorry, not let the relationships go, let the story go, sorry.
You look at the story first, and you can only look at the story from outside. You'll not want to look at the story inside. So when you come out of the story now, the story loses power over you. Because in the story, the power of the story is very overwhelming. Because remember, this is the actor. Okay? And the whole story is about the actor. And the actor does not want to let the story go. The victim will not want to let the victim go. Why? Why do we hold on playing the victim?
Allows us to blame something else.
Exactly, Kevin. That's it. Because we get to place our guilt on the victimizer. That's the basis of all stories that we're in. As long as we're attached to this false I am, the thought is guilt here. The stories give us a way of getting rid of the guilt.
So when you're up at the red line there, so you've gone into the emotion, you've come out of the story, you've gone into the emotion, and you question, as Colette was saying, who is feeling sad, who is angry. What's happening there? Are you recognising the falseness of that I am? Is
Well,
that what
First of all, you're questioning the very foundation of the whole ego thought system.
Right.
Because the whole ego thought system is based around you.
Mm.
Without you, there's no ego. So let's say, and Jesus says, everything emanates from the I, from me. So everybody in this world is a projection from me. And we all have to look at the world from this perspective. Yeah? Because there's only one sun. Yeah? There's only one I am that I am. Isn't that right? Yeah? So we have to look at all of this, that everything here now in front of me is all coming from me. So every one of you represent a story, a projection of me in this. And the story is that this world is real and you are all really sitting here. And there's some of you is really good and there's some of you is really bad. There's some of you is guilty and there's some of you is innocent. There's some of you who are right and there's some of you who is wrong. This is my story. Okay, so that's what you have, each of you have to do the same thing. And it's not about, oh, there's nobody else out there, because that's only denial. If you see somebody out there, there's somebody out there. Okay? The ego loves to deny. I hear so many people saying this, there's nobody out there. Ah, sure, there's nobody out there. Okay? But they're still keeping, if there's nobody out there, there's no world out there either. So why is this person still eating? Why are they still breathing? And a lady once said to me, there's nobody out there. And I says, take a deep breath. And I said, stop breathing now. And she laughed at me. And I says, of course there's somebody out there. Because the world is here. You've made the world real and the projections in the world is real. So it's just complete denial to keep using this phrase, there's nobody else out there. If you see somebody out there and you're still breathing, then there's somebody out there and you're still here. And if you're here, there's somebody else here. Isn't that true? So the ego has many cunning little ways of basically avoiding to do this. Yeah? This is very, very powerful to do this. If you've been studying the course the last 3 or 4 years with us here, this is where you need now to focus your attention on these three.
Michael, this
Yeah.
ties in with something you said before in your other talks about know thyself.
Yeah.
It's this self you need
Yes.
to know.
Yes. It's all the defenses, the attachments, and the coping mechanisms that keep this self very, very strong. And we're going to the very core of the I am, not that I am. Because that's what the separated self is. It is not this I am. There's two I ams, and there's two know thyselves. So when Jesus is talking about know thyself, he's not talking about knowing your true self. You first have to know our false self. That's this I am. And the way we're going to get to know that I am is basically to question it. Yeah? So, are we clear on that? Anybody have any other questions on it? No? Happy? Yeah?
Yeah.
So, now we're going to...
Starter. Sex.
What?
Self-empowerment.
Don't sound so
I think you said sex again.
I did.
You must be getting a lot of sex this weather. It's on your mind all the time.
Not too old for that kind of thing.
Okay, right. So what we're going to do here now, we're going to go through, and you see I use self-empowerment with a capital S. Do you know why I do that?
Because it's at the beginning of the sentence.
Because this empowers ourself with our higher self. Okay? It's our higher self that we are aligning ourselves with here by questioning the small s, the small self. We're always empowering our small self. How?
By believing in the separation.
No.
Or
No.
enforcing it.
My God.
Oh, that's not wrong.
How do we empower the ego?
With our defences.
With blaming other people. With picking sides in the stories. With choosing sides. With attacking. With defences. Every time, remember, when we pick a side, we go into the story, we get witnesses, makes the story stronger. When the story gets stronger, who gets stronger? Who's empowered? Of course. The small self, the separated self. And now, as long as you keep empowering the small self, who's in charge? The small self. Because the small self basically, is the ego thought system. So you can empower the ego thought system and make it stronger and stronger. And you'll do that by accusing other people. You didn't love me the right way. You did this, you done that. It's all projection. Any other ways we empower the ego? Come on now. I must be the worst teacher in the world. I swear to God.
Yeah.
You're a real victim, aren't you?
Sure, if you're going to play the role,
We're only projecting.
how else do we empower? Before we move on to true self-empowerment, how else do we empower? Think about it.
Projection, but that's the same.
Of course, projection is natural. You're always going to project what's inside you. Projection is not a problem. By not taking full responsibility.
Amen. Sorry.
What did you say?
I agree
That's the same as
100%
blame
with what you're saying.
Yeah. Any time that you do not take full responsibility for everything in your life, you empower the ego. You can't take 99.9% of responsibility. Why do we have to take full responsibility? Remember we just said it here at the moment.
Because we created everything.
Because everything comes from me. Everything comes from me. And it's the same for every one of you sitting in this room. Everything is coming from you. So let's say you don't take full responsibility, you're going to blame somebody else. What have you just done? You've just activated separation. You're saying that this other person is separate from me. Okay? It could be, and we never take full responsibility in relationships. Anytime that you accuse anybody of anything, you're not taking full responsibility. But here's another thing. Taking full responsibility does not mean that you blame yourself. Because when I started talking about full responsibility, that's where everybody automatically went. This was the ego's answer. Oh, it's nobody else's fault, but it's your fault. I separated from God. I'm the guilty one. That's not taking full responsibility. So what do we need to take full responsibility for?
Our thoughts. Our actions.
For the dream. Because everything else is in the dream.
It's for the choice, is it?
Of course.
That's what we're responsible for the
Always.
choice to be in the dream.
Of course.
And we're still making that choice. as we're
You will
here.
never come out of the dream without taking full responsibility for the choice of the dream. You're right, Cora. You will always have a special relationship as long as you do not take full responsibility for every relationship that you have. If you are sick and you do not take full responsibility for that sickness or that illness, it'll never go away. Because that's what the dream is. It's a dream of sickness and death. Remember reading that in the course?
But you can use that as well to impact your guilt. You know,
Of course.
You know that you say
Yes.
that Course in Miracles is another special relationship. You can use it to make yourself more guilty.
Of
Because
course.
now you know you should be taking full responsibility.
Yes, that's
And you're not if you're feeling sick. So therefore, you're even guiltier because you should know.
That's what it's, you know, that's why it says, like, it's never taking full responsibility, it's never about blaming yourself.
With regard to that, if you're attempting to, say, resolve a conflict with somebody else, and they're blaming you, right, for something. So you're saying, like, take responsibility for this, that, or the other without blaming yourself. So somebody is holding you responsible for something. Somebody's blaming you for something. Somebody's angry with me.
Right.
So does that mean that I take full responsibility with regard to that person in a conversation with them? Do I accept, say, this is all my fault, what you're saying about me, that I did X, Y, and Z is true? Because you know the way
Right,
it
okay.
says you have to be kind to
Right,
people.
okay, so somebody's accusing you of something.
Exactly.
Right. And another way of saying that is a story.
Yes.
All right. Is that person right or wrong?
Well,
No,
I'm
answer the
responsible
question.
for
Just
the
answer
business
the, we all do this, all right? We're
Yes,
all
I
going to
am.
get, this is what the world is built upon. It's built upon someone's to blame. It's not me,
Yes.
someone else is to blame.
right.
So the way that works, some people will accuse us of certain things.
Yeah.
Now, are these people right or wrong? Was that person right or wrong?
Well, they're right. Eh,
See how you just fell into the trap?
well, yeah. Well, okay. This is something I'm trying to.
You see how easy that was? You know, our natural instinct is to turn around and say, no, that person's wrong. You know, I'm not guilty. So you're in the story
But I'm
now.
responsible.
But hold on a minute.
Yeah,
Just
well.
let's do this step at a time. Okay, let's deal with the person first. Let's
Right.
deal with the story.
Yes.
Is the story true or false?
Well, the story's false.
You just picked a side.
Sorry?
You just picked a side. There is no story. You see
Yeah, there is no.
how we always automatically pick sides in our little stories. Here's your story. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no innocent or guilty.
That's correct. The story is false. Because the story contains
No,
the right
you're
and
in
wrong.
the story.
Sorry?
You're in the story.
Right.
You're in the
Yes,
story.
yes,
You're
I
the
am.
actor that's in the story being accused by this person.
Yes.
Okay, you're the victim. Okay, because this other person's wrong. You're being accused of something, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you're playing the role of the victim.
I don't want to play the role.
But hold on a minute. I'm not asking what you want. I'm
Okay.
asking you what you're actually doing here. Okay, you're in the story. You've been accused of something, and you've said this is not true. This is wrong. This is false.
Before you go.
I'm not sure about that, but go on.
Right. But do you see, right, how you're in the story?
Yes.
You're the actor that's in the story.
Yeah.
Now you're basically saying that this other person is wrong. That the story, what they're accusing you of is false. Isn't that right? Just answer
Yeah,
honestly.
yes, all
Don't-
right, yeah.
You're trying to pre-think me and think, well,
No, I'm
I'm
not trying to pre-think it because I don't know what I did in this particular
It
story.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
But you're being accused.
Yes,
All right, and it's wrong.
I don't know. All right, it's wrong, it's wrong. Okay,
Of
it's
course
wrong.
it's right. You see, you just went into denial there for a minute.
Okay, it's wrong.
All right, because you see, when the ego or the separate itself is boxed in a corner, it'll always turn to denial. It'll always try to think its way out. And that's what you've been doing here with me. You've been trying to jump to think what I was going to say. So, right, let's stay with you here, Mary, all right? So you're in a story,
Yeah,
all right, with this person.
yeah.
So how do you want to keep the story? You see, as long as you see the person is wrong, you stay in the story.
No, I don't want to keep the story.
Right.
I
So
want to
is
go
there a
away.
story?
Sorry?
Is there a story?
What?
Is there a story?
There appears to be. There's a story, there's a story. Yeah, there's a story.
In reality, is there a story?
In reality, there's no story.
No. Do you see how you've just been caught up in the drama of a story? You see, everybody around you has stories. Everybody around us has stories. Okay? Now, your natural instinct then is to seek for witnesses. Somebody accuses you of something, what's the first thing we do? We seek for an alibi. We seek for a witness. Or maybe this other person already has witnesses, so you go to seek witnesses. Isn't this true? Isn't this what we all do?
The system operates that way.
Right, so every witness that we pull in has a story also. So we also take on their stories, take on their drama.
So it's stories within stories.
Stories within
Yeah.
stories within stories. And the deeper, you ever see this symbol before? Okay, before we do this, tell me if you've seen this before. Everybody see that?
Yeah,
What's the symbol of?
it's what you use to show
Stones.
progression.
Stones.
Your levels, yeah.
No, remember the photographs, they're all over the place. You know, the
Stones.
stones.
Oh,
The Zen.
okay, all right, okay.
What else are there? These are all the stories. We start off with a little story up here. We move into this story. We get witnesses. We go into this story, we go into this story, and now we're in this story. How hard is it to get out of that story at that level? Because here, you have all the emotions, you have all the friends, all the witnesses,
All the sides.
everything is in here. This is where war usually ends up. This is where murder will end up. This is where you get caught up, okay? From one story into another story, another story. And what else, like Rhoda, you just did it. This is the story of the separation. We started off with the thought of separation. We went into a story of the separated self. We went into the yin and the yang too, where the sun splits into two, the victimizer. Then we go in here where we basically fragment into billions, and here we create the world. Now look at the world. How many fucking stories is in this world? A lot. You can see
7 billion.
You can see a lot more than that. You can see now how hard it is to get out of the world. You can see how difficult it is not to believe that this world is real. Look at all the witnesses. All of you are witnesses to my story that I'm here. I am a witness to all your stories that you are here. That's beautiful. It is beautiful. I'm so proud that I created the ego thought system. It is truly amazing. It's wonderful. It's a work of art. It's absolutely beautiful. But we did this as one, collectively. And what do you think we do then when we're born into the body as individuals? We keep doing this every single day. One story into another story, into another story, into another story, and so on. And when you get to this point, have you ever I could kill you? Do you know? Or someone's ready to kill you, depending on which role you want to play. It's truly amazing, isn't it?
Can you get Mary back out of her story?
Jesus, I don't know about that. I don't think, I'll have a word with the boss. Right. Your story is basically what we're going to do now. So self-empowerment is designed for your story, so we're going to come to that when you're accused. Okay?
Right, yeah,
Right,
my
well-
question was about taking responsibility.
Yeah, well listen,
Like,
but
or something.
you've drifted us off there, right? So, what I was saying here, first of all, before we start doing this, how do we empower the ego to separate itself? By not taking full responsibility. Anytime you do not take full responsibility, you are going to be either angry or depressed. That is the effect. You're free to choose, but you're not
Free from the consequences
of your choice. So when you're free not to take responsibility, the effects are going to be either anger or depression. It could be the anger first, but then the depression will come, because what goes up must come down. So that's not taking responsibility. What's another way we empower the ego? Acceptance. By not accepting. Yeah? So what is it in your life now that you're not accepting? Because when we don't accept something, what do? We reject it. Yeah? What does that mean? Anybody?
We reject it, well, we defend it, which means we attack.
Yeah, but there's something else.
If
When
you
we
reject it, you keep it.
you keep it. The reason why you keep it, okay, it's a thought. And if you keep rejecting this thought, you're splitting your mind, because the thought belongs to you, no matter what the thought is. The only way, right, that we get rid of anything that we want to reject or not accept is we first must own it. We have to bring it inside. And it could be the thought of sickness. It could be the thought of something that's so horrible in this world that you wouldn't even want to look at. So what do we do with all of these things we see in the world? We deny them. We don't look at them. We say, that's not a part of me. Everything in this world is a part of you. Remember what Jesus says in the Course? The world is totally neutral. The body is totally neutral. And we give this world meaning, and we give the body meaning. So, we give it a meaning in this world of good and bad, right and wrong, guilty and innocent. So we want to get rid of the guilty, get rid of the bad. We're not going to accept it. So we keep ourselves separate from them thoughts. You see how the whole thing's set up? It's beautiful. And that empowers the ego. What Jesus says in the Course, the light of the world is inside us. And it's only by bringing the darkness into the light that the darkness will disappear. It will dissolve. It's not going to dissolve away out there by you not looking at it. That's going to keep it very real and very frightening for you. This is not the nice part of A Course in Miracles. By looking at all the hate, the murder, the rapists, the pedophiles, ISIS, you name it, whatever's going on in the world, no one wants to look at it. But they do look at it every now and again. Why? Because they get to project their guilt onto it. we get the darkness inside ourselves and place it on that darkness. And then we refuse to look at it. Then we turn our back to it. But the problem with that, again, is all projections come back to us. And that's how we keep keeping this. That's how it stays with us. When you don't accept something, you reject it. Who really wants to own all those thoughts of darkness? Murder, rape, everything that goes on in this world. Who wants to really stand up and say, that's a part of me? This world has a shadow. Every organization in this world has a shadow. The church has a shadow. The banks have their shadow. Governments have their shadow. There's not a person that you meet on the street that doesn't have a shadow. There's nothing exists in this world that doesn't have a shadow. Because this world was made in duality of right and wrong, good and bad, innocent and guilty. All our relationships have the same dynamic. Every single one of them. In our family, we have nice family members and we have family members that's not so nice. So we deny. We avoid. We kick out or disown or whatever. We have friends. We do the same dynamic with them. We kick them out, place our darkness on them and kick them out. We do this with everything. This empowers the ego. And as long as you keep empowering the ego, all right, then that makes the I am, who's separate, is never going to want to do this, never going to want to do self-empowerment. Its answer will be, it doesn't matter. I'm right.
Michael, right minds come from shadow.
The right minds? Ego right mind?
Mm.
Yeah. Of course. It's covered up with the illusion of goodness. The ego wrong mind, the ego right mind are no difference.
Yeah.
Special love is the ego right mind. Special hate is the ego wrong mind. Special hate and special love are the same. Okay? There's no difference. Everything in this world basically has the illusion of goodness and it has the illusion of badness. And as long as you keep the illusions of goodness, you're always going to have the illusions of badness. Remember what we did with the persona and the shadow. As long as you keep the persona in place, you're always going to have a shadow. As long as you have this one special love in your life, okay, you're going to have a special hit. You can't have one without the other because this world is duality. The persona creates the shadow. Goodness creates badness. The innocent in this world create the guilty. You could do forgiveness with your shadow from now to eternity. It won't make any difference. Why? Because as long as you keep the special love, the persona, the good, the innocent, you're also going to have the bad along with it, the guilty and so on. And the error that a lot of people in the Course of Miracles have been making is they're only doing forgiveness with their shadow. And they're actually enhancing their persona. Because now, through the Course, through learning that who they are, they're becoming more special. And that means now I want to be along with more special people. I want a special teacher. Okay? I want to wear special clothes. I want to go to special functions because I'm one of the special people now. I teach a special book to special people. You see how that works? This is the cunningness and the deviousness of the ego, and I just love it. Why? Because it's really empowering us for us to be who we truly are. If the ego was not so difficult to get out of, we would never truly be self-empowered with a capital S. Okay, Jesus says in the Course, the ego is foolproof, but it's not God-proof. Because there is a combination that's placed inside the Course that gives us the way out. And you don't get it in the ego right mind, where most people do in the Course are. Most people teaching the Course are teaching at that level. And that's where most people are. So that's where most teachers need to be. And it doesn't mean that these teachers are right or wrong or good or bad. Every teacher has their own level. Every student has their own level. And when you're ready for the right teacher, you'll be ready for the right level. Or sorry, when you're ready for the right level, you'll be ready for the right teacher. And remember this, and I said this in Ibiza, you know, there are people writing a version of this book, and there are people studying a version of this book and that book and other books. Okay? Jesus says very clearly in the Course, there's a course for every student. And there's a course for every teacher. So why bother going and writing your own version of it? Okay? All you're doing is making it into your own anyway. But what people want to do, the same as the Bible, is saying, I've got the right version, I'm going to get this out to the world so other people have the version that I want, or I think. Well, screw that. Do you know what I mean? Write your book and keep it for yourself. You know, Jesus says right at the beginning of the Course, right? Follow nobody else's path. So what do? We have a book, and now we want followers. We want disciples. Okay, I have this form of the Course now, and it's really great because it's working for me. Do you really think that this is going to work for anybody else? This simple little error that people are falling into. You know, stick to your own course. If you want a book, write it for yourself.
Does that mean we don't have to read your book?
I'm talking about the Course.
I-
I'm talking about all the different versions of the Course. Okay? You know, there's a course for everybody. Because everybody's going to take the Course and make it into what they perceive it to be. Because here's the trap that people are falling into. Let's say I read the Course and I go, right, I can make this a better course. All right? Because I think people need this course. You need to have it because this is what I see in it. So what am I doing? I'm creating separation. That's what I'm doing. You know, I'm not taking full responsibility for this. Because I'm saying there's somebody out there and they're, you know, the foundations book's wrong. Okay? This book's right. So, remember the Course is also a story. Is the Course right or wrong? You know, is this book right or is that book right? Is this book wrong? You see, everybody's fallen into this trap of this is right and that's wrong. There is no right and wrong. There is no course that's better or right or more righteous or more wrong than any other course. The Course is for you and you alone. It's a self-study book. Does this make sense? Do you know? But we do this. So we got drifted there anyway. We're back to empowering the ego. All right. So we have not taken responsibility, empowers the ego. Not accepting empowers the ego. Anything else empowers the ego.
Not forgiving.
Exactly. Not actually doing the work. You know, reading the book and becoming more special by reading the book, by using your intellect, all right, empowers the ego. And that's what a lot of people are doing. But that's okay. They'll get fed up with it after 2,000 years. You know? You'll come back here so many more times and you'll say, oh, you know, I need to change this. So ultimately in this, right, it's all about self-empowerment at this higher level to come out of the story. So what we're going to do with the first one, what was the first one? Great memories, though. Family. Okay? So we all have family issues. And the first step in self-empowerment is self-awareness. Okay? So, in our family, in duality, we have people. And we have guilty and innocent, good and bad, right and wrong, nice and not so nice. Be very, very careful of the labels you put on somebody, because there is no hierarchy of illusions. Okay? If there's somebody in your family who's not very nice, then they're very guilty. They're a victimizer. Simple as that. Someone in your family annoys you, what are they?
Bollocks.
Apart from the bollocks, they're a victimizer. Someone in your family makes you depressed. They're a victimizer. Someone in your family
This is
doesn't...
purely because I've chosen to be a victim. Okay.
Of course. Remember,
Yeah,
Yeah, they're just words.
there's no, but there's two of everything, right?
Yeah.
And Jesus says in the
No,
course,
but my sense of it is like, the tiniest upset
yeah,
and what we would call a major catastrophe.
yes,
There's no difference.
no difference, no hierarchy of illusions.
It's just words.
But that's how devious and clever the ego is. The ego says it's okay, if you don't like someone. Don't hit them. It's okay if you hate them, but don't hurt them. It's okay if you hurt them, but don't kill them. It's okay if you kill them if you're justified. The ego is always taking you in at the bottom in the most subtle ways, and all of a sudden, it's a story, yeah? And now the story goes into another story and builds momentum. This is how wars are started. Be very careful, like Kevin said, just the slightest irritation from anybody at all, you will develop victim, victimizer, drama, emotions, conflict, everything going to come into it. And we do this in our families. And here's the beauty about the family, right? Is we have to love them whether we like them or not. Isn't that true?
But you see, I think the word love,
Oh, I know.
by its very nature,
Well,
it attracts people into
yeah,
a whole lot of
exactly.
bullshit.
I mean, you have to define what love is.
Yeah.
That's why, in all my teachings, every couple of months I go back to the love. That you can't love somebody. For me to say I love somebody is a downright lie. Why?
Well, it implies separation, but it also implies you don't love everybody.
Exactly. The only time you can say that is when you love everybody. And the way you love everybody is you exclude nobody. And the way you exclude nobody is you react to nothing that anybody says or does to you. Then you know you're in love. Love does not exist in the first two levels. That's the illusion of love. Love only exists on the third level, on the one mind, where that mind can only be one when there's nobody excluded. Here, the one mind. Ken Wapnick used to talk about, you'll see in these videos, talk about above the battleground. Here's what he's talking about. This is above the battleground. Because down here, the mind's split. Here, the mind's split. And as long as the mind's split, there's going to be conflict. And that's what the battleground is. It's pure conflict. Okay, above the battleground is here. This is where love is. Can I give my love to you?
No, I already have it.
Huh?
I already have it.
Exactly. Where is it?
Everywhere.
Here. Here, we have to, because this implies separation. So let's say you're here. Now we have to love the poor people. We have to love the sick people. We have to love those who are not loved. All you're doing, separation. The next time that you turn around and you say that I love you, don't delude yourself. Correct that thought. And go straight away to I love everybody. When you love everybody, then you can say, I love you. And only at that point where you hit no one, it's not here. Remember, this is the ego. The ego can turn around and say, oh, the thought of loving everybody, I like that thought. Yeah. I really like that thought. And then 2 minutes later, then, what the hell are you at? Would you leave me alone? See how quick this comes in? You know, the thought comes in, oh, I love everybody. And then I guarantee you, within minutes, if not hours, you could be on your own. And you can turn on the TV, and you'll see something, and you'll just basically pick a side, and away you go again. But the ego's happy because at least you tried. You know? No. Well, I did try. Like, it's not easy, this loving everybody, you know? So we all have these thoughts, you know, of how this all works. But just, you know, honesty and love go hand in hand together, you know? How we begin loving people is starting using the tools. ATF, complete forgiveness, and self-pardon. That is the beginning of the process of being in the one mind, where all love is inclusive. Okay? Anything else, you're only deluding yourself, and it's going to hurt you. Many times have you said to someone, I love you, and maybe this person has left you, maybe this person has not returned your love, or someone, how much does that hurt? There's no pain in true love. The pain in false love, or the special love, is telling you simply that this thought is not true. Any time that you are in pain because of the thought of love, the pain should tell you this thought is not true. That's the way I interpret it. And it's the same with fear. Anytime you're fearful, instead of having separation, that I'm fearful of flying, I'm fearful of being on my own, I'm fearful of spiders, I'm fearful of this. Now what you're doing is you're creating separation. You have a thought that you projected out, and you're keeping it separate so you stay away from the fear. The way I interpret fear is this. It's simply a thought that's not true. All fear should tell you that. This thought is not true. That is the correction. Simple. You don't have to look at the object or the person or the thing and make it real by projecting your fear onto it. That's the ego, and that empowers the ego. The ego just loves that. Reinterpret. Remember what I said at the beginning. Everything has to be reinterpreted. So look at the thought, because here, let's go, here, there's you in the story, and there's X in the story. And the X represents what you're afraid of. Okay? And as long as you're afraid of the X, then you're implying separation, you keep the mind split, you keep the fear real. Yeah? But once you go to the thought of fear, you're coming out of the story. Yeah? And simply the pain in the story, or the fear in the story, should give you automatically, this is where miracles become natural. This is simply not true. And then if you want to even take it, because simply looking at the thought or the experience or the emotion, remember all emotions come from thoughts. So you have the thought of fear, and then you have the emotion of fear where you feel the fear, yeah? So we take it a step further. We have basically the thought of fear, then we take the thought of fear into the story, We manifest the thought in here to an object, a person, or something. And now we're in the story here, and we're projecting our fear here, which is the thought, onto this. So, reinterpretation is needed. Okay, and the reinterpretation is this is simply not true. Any emotion of any fear, simply not true. And then you go back here to the thought, and then you could even go back to here. Who is having this thought? It takes you right out of the story, and it transcends the thought. Because, like Ken Wapnick always said, look at our thoughts. We don't look at our thoughts by manifesting the thought here in the world and making it real. We look at our thoughts by reinterpreting them and saying, this is simply not true. And let's say, okay, here's another person in the story, how we dress. Okay? So now you have the thought of love. Special. And you're together. And all of a sudden then there's a separation. Now there's pain. The pain in that separation, with that thought of love, should tell you one thing and one thing very clear. This thought that I was in love with this person is simply not true. That's a reinterpretation. Because that takes us out of the story, back to the thought, and then you can take it a step further again and say, who had that thought? Who was experiencing that thought of love and then the pain? Because you can't have love without the hate. Okay? Remember what Jesus says in the Course, there's no love in this world without ambivalence, which means there's no love in this world without hate. And the hate equals pain. Because the pain comes from not getting what I want. The special love comes from I get what I want. So we all go into relationships thinking I'm going to get what I want from this person. Love. Special love. And what happens, we find out in the relationship that this fucker's not giving me what I want. And now there's pain. That's the hate. So hate equals, I'm not getting what I want, so I'm going to hate you. I'll love you if I get what I want. And I'm going to hate you when I don't get what I want. Does this make sense?
Well,
We've all done this. All right, so there's nothing empowers to separate itself, the ego, more than the special love. Let's do one more thought. The thought of guilt. We did fear, we did the special love. Let's do guilt. We have the thought of guilt. We take the thought of guilt with this. And now, all right, here's the clincher. When you have pain, when you go through the special love, all right, and you go through this separation of the special love and it turns to hate, right? What's another word for hate? Guilt. This person is guilty of something. So we project again our guilt onto that person. It doesn't matter whether the thought is love, whether it's fear, whether it's guilt. We do the same dynamic with it all. We take ourselves, the thought, into the stories, create the drama, and now there's fear, the emotion of fear, pain, you name it. And the reinterpretation of this is simply this. Any time that you feel any emotion, of any pain, of any guilt, of any fear, it should be simply telling you one thing and one thing only. This thought is not true. This pain I'm experiencing is simply not true. It's not right or wrong. It's simply not true. That's the if you don't reinterpret this, you're always going to project onto either the thing or the object or another person. Because that's all that's in this world. There are things and there are objects and there's other people. Isn't that true?
And does that apply then to good feelings as well?
Of course. Can't have the good without the bad. They're in the story. You know, the world is duality. And, you know, it's the good things that get you into trouble. You know, we meet good people. You know, you can't meet good people. Why?
That implies there's bad people.
You know, it's a trap. It's a setup. If you don't start to look at this from this perspective over here at the whole world, all the stories in it, all right, you're going to keep falling into this trap. How are we fixed for time?
4:45.
Do you want to stop for 15 minutes, just get a break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back for the last hour. Okay?
Okay.